The Fiona Harvey legal case is just getting wilder and wilder by the day, and something that is very interesting is the Roth law firm have been very critical of Richard Gadd and Netflix for promoting so heavily the show, especially recently as there has been a tour over in the US where Richard Gadd, Jessica Gunning and other actors and actresses have appeared in many talk shows over in the US, like Jimmy Kimmel for example, to promote Baby Reindeer. But Mr. Richard Roth of the Roth law firm, who is representing Fiona Harvey from California, has actually been doing the exact same thing over here in the UK. He appeared, of course, on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and the other day he also appeared on the ITV breakfast show Good Morning Britain, which if you don't know, over in the UK, Good Morning Britain is an ITV show that runs for a few hours in the morning, covering the world news, pop culture news, and lots of other topics. And Fiona Harvey's lawyers apparently are demanding evidence from Richard Gadd in the £135 million lawsuit. And it's just interesting. Of course, I don't have a particular side that I'm on. I don't care about who wins. I'm just obviously very intrigued about the outcome. I want to know if it's real, of course, like the rest of us. I want to know if it's true. And I want to know what is actually the facts. But I am very critical of Richard Roth and the Roth law firm just because of the way that they've handled things thus far. Of course, we've had I've looked through the initial complaint that was submitted to the courts. It was full of spelling errors. It was, every opportunity there was a jab at Richard Gadd, like, critiquing him on many, many things, talking about his unsuccessful career, and unnecessarily at times as well. And then also hypocritical comments about Netflix failing to do their due diligence and background checks. But then when questioned about the Keir Starmer issue, if you don't know about that, go and check out recent videos. Richard Roth said that he didn't know anything about that and he hasn't really looked into it. So there is no background check there either. It's just a bit of a mess at the minute, and it's just getting messier. So we're going to take a little look at what was said on Good Morning Britain. I have no doubt that this will get a copyright claim because ITV loves slapping me with copyright claims at the minute, but let's do it anyway.
Lawyer representing the woman claiming she's the real-life Martha from the Netflix series Baby Reindeer says the writer and star comedian Richard Gadd will be asked to give evidence if her case goes to court.
Yes, Richard Roth is suing Netflix for £134 million on behalf of Fiona Harvey, and we're going to speak to him in just a moment. First, though, in this clip, Martha is portrayed as mentally unstable as she harasses Richard from a bus stop while he comes and goes from his home. It's one of many scenes Fiona Harvey denies took place.
And Fiona Harvey's lawyer, Richard Roth, joins us now from New York. Good evening for you, and good morning here from the UK. Thank you for joining us. Just to, to start this in a very simple way, the programme Baby Reindeer starts on Netflix. The start of the show, each episode, with the phrase, "a true story." And your case, on behalf of Fiona Harvey, is...
Well, it's not every episode, it is just the first episode, but...
that this is not a true story, that is just false, what they say. If they'd said it was based on a true story, it could have been okay, but saying it's a true story is wrong.
Yeah, that's the whole point. You're right. If you say based on a true story, if you say inspired by a true story, then it gives you a little latitude. It gives you a little liberalism to change the story. But when it says this is a true story and it affects people's lives, then it better be true. And that's where Netflix fails. You can't say it's a true story if it's not. And especially when you're harming others. And in the United States, there's a good case for defamation, a good case for the invasion of the right to privacy, and Netflix just failed miserably in not protecting itself. And you can imagine Netflix, not a small organization, one of the largest streaming services in the country, one of the biggest companies in the world, really, it's reprehensible to say this is a true story when it really was not.
Well, this is interesting because I read up on this recently, and apparently this lawsuit could stumble at the first hurdle if, obviously, because it's taken place in America, and the First Amendment in America is the freedom to speech, essentially. And that gives a lot of protection to authors, writers, to producers and stuff like this. And Richard Gadd, being the show writer and I guess one of the producers at the time as well, obviously that gives him a lot of free speech to tell his truth. All right, and I know people are very funny about it being his truth, her truth, their truth, whatever. It should only be the truth, but at the same time, it's just not how the law works. But yeah, that's what the thesis is.
Isn't this just like a a simple, stupid error? I mean, wouldn't any lawyer advising Netflix have said to them immediately, "What are you doing? You can't say it's a true story when it's not." I mean, are you surprised that they've made such a basic error, or is this so new that they hadn't kind of thought of it in advance?
Okay, another thing on this, just before they get into that answer. Apparently, over the weekend, there was information that came out that apparently Richard Gadd said to Netflix that he did not want this show to be portrayed as a true story. He said that this should be, not a true story, but Netflix refused that request from Richard Gadd and doubled down and said it would be a true story. And they said it is going to be a true story. So that's very interesting, towards the Fiona Harvey case, because if you've got Richard Gadd, who lived through this experience, and he's saying, no, please don't say that this is a true story, but Netflix is saying yes, it doesn't look great. You're pissing me off.
That they hadn't kind of thought of it in advance.
So there's a team. There's teams of lawyers in Netflix, and this last weekend there was an article that came out in London where Richard Gadd, said that he actually was telling Netflix this is not true, and Netflix kept pushing it to be a true story.
This is what I was saying.
You just can't do that. And so, yes, to your point, if Netflix believed that it was based on something, then that's what they should have said. And the most striking example of the falsity of it is the fact that she, in the story, sort of a spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet for your audience, but the bottom line is that in one of the first episodes, it says she was convicted for 4.5 years as a stalker. That just didn't happen. The last episode, she pleads guilty 4 times to felonies for stalking. That never happened. Or to say someone's a convicted felon who was in jail for over 5 years when none of that ever happened, and we have documents attached to the complaint to prove that, is very troublesome, and it's problematic for Netflix.
The thing is that it is a drama. It is a character called Martha, and there is no mention of your client's name in the drama. I don't think Netflix have even confirmed that your client is the person.
They haven't.
Who the drama depicts. And in fact, they never use her name, and her name was never used publicly. Your client chose to sort of out herself and did a big interview, of course, with Piers Morgan, on his show. So is there not a defence from Netflix that, Fiona Harvey's name was never used, and that so these things are not about her at all?
I guarantee he'll talk about her likeness.
So the answer is no, it's not really a defense, and here's why. If you have it can be a true story, but you have to change her a bit. Make it a different nationality. Make her look different. Don't make her Scottish. Don't make her go to the Holly Arms, the bar in which she went to. Don't use the same terminology with the tweets and the Facebook page and the Facebook posts. And so what happened was, the reason why she came out was because she's a shattered person. She sits at home. She's nervous to go out. She's getting death threats from all over. And so she decided to come out and say to the world, listen, it's not true. Please leave me alone. She didn't come out to say, it's me. Aha. She came out to say, this is not true. Please, I need people to respect my privacy.
And I respect that. Absolutely, her privacy does deserve to be respected. This is, something that happened almost a decade ago. But at the same time, she, chose to go out on Piers Morgan, which was always going to get a lot of attention. But if she had done nothing, I can guarantee you that by now, this would have blown over. That's just how the world works. We would all be on to the next thing. No one would care anymore. Netflix would have, Baby Reindeer would have had its peak. It would have gone through it, and that would be it. But she didn't. She chose to speak out. And of course, Piers is never going to say no, because this was, foreseen, this was so huge. Like, he got like 14 million views on that video. That's nuts. But yeah, I think she kind of created a little bit of a rod for her own back with the by going out onto Piers Morgan and prolonged it. But at the same time, it gave her a window to cha-ching, you know, so...
So the argument that she came out really doesn't work for Netflix, especially when they made it so easy to tie the facts to her. Let's not forget, we live in a communication world where I could literally Google on my computer some of the lingo, some of the language that was used on Twitter, and I will find Fiona Harvey. So, for example, there's a reference to hang your curtains, the reference to baby reindeer. It takes a nanosecond to find out it's her. And so the fact that she came out is really not... Netflix may argue that, but she didn't come out as using it as a sword. She came out using it as a shield. She said, please, I'm the person, I really don't want to be bothered. Don't stand outside of my apartment. Don't hawk me. You know how the press is. Yeah. So it's really not a defense for Netflix in any way.
Okay, she's accused, of course, if she's the woman who is in the drama, she's accused of harassing and stalking Richard Gadd, sending more than 41,000 emails, 744 tweets, 100 pages of letters, and 350 hours of voicemails.
That's brutal.
I mean, that is an extraordinary thing for him to endure by one individual. If it's the case, do you think that undermines her case?
Well, that to my point. You're confirming my point. They better have They better have those hours of voicemails. They better have 41,000 messages. Think about that, 41,000 messages. The relationship was not that long of a relationship. So if they don't have the 41,000, I'm telling you, we don't have them, and I don't believe they have them. Then that's where Netflix fails. Netflix has to say, fine. You say on the show there's 41,000 emails. Let me see them. You say there's this many tweets. Let me see them. You say there's this many hours of messages. Let me see it.
But what about the things that have been confirmed, like the emails to Sakia Starmer? Bear in mind, I go over it every video, but it's just for anyone that's new. Obviously, Fiona Harvey has been outed in the press for actually harassing Sakia Starmer. Bear in mind, he was not her MP. She was in a neighbouring constituents. So basically, Keir Starmer had nothing to do with her. And then the email started off political, but then progressed into her sending horrific emails about his disabled wife, and then progressing, and one email was even quoted to say, I'm going to make your life not worth living. Like, that, there's proof right there. Surely that is enough to undermine the case. And if that's not, what about Laura Ray? She came out and spoke on Piers Morgan as well, which is a platform that Richard Roth has used and Fiona Harvey has used. So clearly, like, they see that as a reliable platform to promote your story. So Laura Ray's come out and spoken about her experiences with Fiona Harvey and how other people have also experienced Fiona Harvey from a legal point of view. So surely that undermines their case. Even if, let's say, Netflix doesn't have that, whatever, or they can't provide it or whatever, or haven't provided it as of yet, surely going into the case, these are things that should be looked at as well to kind of build up a character of Fiona Harvey, you know? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, again, I don't dislike Fiona Harvey. I think people get the wrong idea, but I just look at it from a pragmatic, you know, black and white point of view, that the facts are there. You just have to look at them.
It's our position. They're going to have to come up with it because we have not seen anywhere near that amount. And Fiona stands by her statement that she made in front of Piers Morgan, which is nowhere near that amount. So yes, if there are those types of messages, it becomes a little more difficult, but still, you're calling her a convicted felon. Laura Ray, who was on the Piers Morgan show, said not only was she not a convicted felon, she didn't do anything that rose to a level of conviction. She wasn't even arrested. The laws haven't changed. And quite frankly, Laura Ray, who was allegedly stalked 22 years ago, said that she found it very problematic that Netflix went ahead and said that. So even if she we dispute everything about the show. But even if some of it is true, this is a true story. It does not give them the license to make some falsities and some truths to it, and compound that with the fact that Benjamin King, a principal of Netflix, went and testified in front of
This
Parliament
is true.
and said she was a convicted felon. Now think about that. How many lawyers prepared Benjamin King before he testified in front of Parliament? And if he said she's a convicted felon and she wasn't, that's defamation. In this country, it's what we call defamation per se. You can't say someone's convicted when they weren't, and that's where the lies start.
And I stand by that. Obviously, you know, I think that's a completely fair remark to make. Benjamin King, from the looks of it, might have had one of the biggest mess ups in, you know, media history with that statement. But at the same time, obviously, looking at it from the flip view, they might have evidence to say that she was a convicted felon, because as of right now, all that the Roth law firm have provided the public with is a basic DBS check, which again I've gone over and over again. Sorry, but a basic DBS check doesn't really show anything. It's, as it states, basic. But if you have a standard or an enhanced DBS, that would show a hell of a lot more, and it would show in greater detail any convictions, whether it be spent or unspent. So that's the kind of evidence that the Roth law firm needs to be bringing forward, not basic DBS checks, because a basic DBS check shows us very, very little. And it's a lot to hinge your case on.
Interesting. And just briefly, before we let you go, whatever the facts, 134 million is a massive amount of money. What would be the justification for that?
There is a comprehensive breakdown on the report, the video I made a couple of days ago, so check that one out.
Great question. So it's based on some of the causes of action that we have, and the cases pending in Los Angeles are based on, Fiona is entitled to the profits from the show. If in fact we prevail on some of the theories, the profits from the show are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. This is online to be the most profitable, most watched show ever on Netflix. Think about that. Stranger Things, other shows that have been on Netflix, this is surpassing that. So the dollar amounts relate directly to the lost profits, and as well as the damages she suffered. This woman is literally in fear of her life every day. And so the damages do relate to the various theories relate to various elements of damages, and we're going to get the information. We're going to get from Netflix, find out what they're actually making. Let's not forget, Richard Gere is right now on tour across the U.S. promoting his, quote, true story.
Bro, you are on tour in the UK promoting your lawsuit. Like, you can't say that. You've literally been on every show in the UK basically talking about this.
So if Netflix lied about it, which it's incontrovertible that she wasn't convicted and other elements of it, then Netflix has a big problem here.
Richard Roth, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
Now, I do sound very critical. Again, I feel like I come off every video watching Richard Roth and just sound like I'm bad-mouthing him. I'm not at all. I just dislike how hypocritical his statements are. And, you know, he's obviously talking about truth and all the rest of it, and that's absolutely fine. He's obviously got a job to do to defend his client, and he's doing his utmost to try and, you know, make this case as notoriable as possible. He wants everyone watching this. He wants that kind of, or to me, it seems like, I can't say for certain, but it seems like, at least, he wants this to be a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard level of kind of the world watching this lawsuit. He wants everybody tuning in. And then also, you know, you got to think, this would be a huge come up for his company. You know, the Roth law firm, everyone's going to be going to them if they can win this case, and all eyes are on it, and they're going to be going to them, and they can get, like, make more money, you know. So it's all mind games, it's all clever tactics, but, you know, at the same time, again, I come away thinking that he's just really hypocritical, because he's doing exactly what he's criticizing Netflix of doing, which is promoting the show. when he's actually promoting the lawsuit, you know? So, what do you guys think? Am I being too harsh? Am I being a bit of a dick? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Way down there, jump scare the hell out of that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Tick on my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload to the channel. And until next time, guys, I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll speak to you later. Peace.